that's totally destroyed, so I don't think I'm going to be able to fix that. Now it's killing the battery, but really, you know, sprayed the heck out of it. It cranked, lo and behold. Okay, back outside here, and I'm lucky because it's a really warm day. Last week it was in the 20s, and today it's 65 degrees. So luckily I'm able to work in warmer weather here, get this seat and this tank off, and try to get this carburetor back in. Which in the past, getting the carburetor out, because I've cleaned it and rebuilt this carburetor before, and in the past, typically getting it out and getting it back in is the hardest part. Especially getting it back in, because it doesn't want to go back on those inside of those hose clamps that connect to the side of the engine. It doesn't want to go back in, but I think if I put a little grease and whatever, it may make it a little easier. But let's get this thing back in. Actually, also just remember the time I had getting this thing out, because the screw wouldn't come loose. Take a look, hopefully you can see this on the camera here, but I tried to drill this thing out, but it just would not come loose. Luckily I was able to get it off, but I'm gonna have to, I guess, cut this off or drill this out somehow and run to the store and get a new bolt, or I may get a new set of bolts. But I guess I need to work on this first really quick, so I'll just do that really quick. Got the new bolt here, looking at it to make sure it fits live for the first time on camera here. Yeah, it fits fine. But they didn't have a black one, so I just got a stainless steel, which whatever, it's fine for the time being, because like I said, I'm probably gonna take this out, rebuild it again, and maybe upgrade it with like a performance kit or something like that. But for the time being, that's gonna be fine for these purposes. Put this back together, basically just goes like that. If you can see that screw, well, there's the clamp, the screw, there's like a little washer thing in there, and then a square nut, which is like the same as on the battery that gave me problems on the square nut on the battery, which was a whole other thing, but you can go watch that video if you haven't seen that. But square nuts are basically giving me a freaking hard time. But yeah, this works out fine. It's not black like the other ones, but you know, it's fine for the time being. I'm gonna get this back in. as hard as I remember, but it is still pretty difficult to get that thing back in. It wasn't really the hose clamps as I remembered, it was really the strip screws that got in the way, and rerouting the cable for routing the hoses and routing the fuel lines, just routing everything properly. The choke cable, I don't even think that's routed properly, so I'm gonna have to look into that and try to maybe redo that when I get back in there. But getting the throttle cables back on, getting all the hoses back on, and then there's another strip screw on the airbox hose that goes on the top here, so I'm gonna have to replace that screw as well. But I got it on for the time being. And when I was getting this airbox cover that has the filter in it, this actually ripped. You can see that on camera. That's totally destroyed, so I don't think I'm going to be able to fix that. So for the time being, hopefully that'll be, you know, good enough. It's, you know, really not ideal, but I guess for the time being that's okay. At least try to get it cranked or whatever. Yeah, I'll just tighten it down like that so nothing gets in there. But I have to replace that. I don't really like this anyways. This came with like a little skull and crossbone. I've ripped the other part off, and I don't really like this, so I'm gonna get one of those more smaller, minimal ones, put that on there in the next step too. But like I said, for the time being, I just want to see if this thing will run. So I'm gonna put the tank and the seat on, see if this baby will run. I don't have a lot of confidence because I think it is gonna be that stator, which is in here. I don't know a lot about that. I've never done that before, but if it doesn't crank and run properly right now, then that's going to be my next step. So I'm going to put this back together and see what we got and try to give it a crank. Battery, got power. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, as you can tell, nothing happened. And now, I don't know, it kind of seemed like it wasn't getting fuel. So maybe it just didn't. I think there is a little bit of gas. I may have to check the gas tank to make sure there is gas. I think there is enough gas. I have to look into that. Sorry, that dog is super annoying. I think there's enough gas in there, but obviously it has to fill the bowls back up in the carburetor. Or maybe there's not enough gas, or maybe there's a clog in the line. I have to check that, but super anticlimactic, and it's getting cold and a little bit dark, and I have to go to dinner anyways. My cousin's birthday today. But go to dinner. I'll probably mess with this again tomorrow or something, but next clip you'll see basically a little bit more of that. Super anticlimactic. I was hoping that was going to crank, but looks like it's not, so I'll just take the battery back out and put it on the charger because it's killing the battery. But that's that. Okay, that last clip got a little bit messed up. I had to run to go to dinner. It was my cousin's birthday yesterday, but as you saw, it wasn't cranking anyways, and wasn't sure if there was enough gas in the tank. So right now I'm gonna put the battery back in. I charged it back up last night because I tried to crank it so much that it killed the battery, but charged the battery back up. I'm gonna put some gas, hopefully I have some, and then see if it'll crank properly, and then hopefully it does. But if not, then I'll start looking into the stator, which I know very little, you know, next to nothing basically about that, but hopefully it'll be just the gas and the battery, and then we'll see what happens. Alright guys, so last night it got too dark. I kept working on it. After I got the carburetor in, it still wouldn't crank properly, but I called my brother for a while. I was trying to crank it, and he said that I was describing to him the issues. Like it sounded like it kind of wanted to crank, but it just wouldn't turn over. And I was kind of describing it to him, and he's like, it sounds like you're having a fuel issue. And I was like, well, I just cleaned the carburetor. And he's like, are you sure you did it right, whatever? And I was like, well, yeah, I've cleaned it before, whatever. He was like, well, get some I didn't have any, but he was like, get some starter fluid and spray it up in the air box, which will go to the carburetor and straight to the engine, and that'll crank for sure. And so I did that. And then when I did that and I finally heard it crank for the first time, that reminded me of when I was looking at videos, like reminding myself how to clean the carburetor, which if you don't know how, then you can kind of just look that up. But something I learned I didn't know, hopefully you can see this, this little screw, flathead screw right here, if you take that out, this little knob, nipple, hopefully you can see this, but this nipple is the drain for the carburetor, and there's two of them. If you take that out, that'll actually drain the gas that's in the bowl of the carburetor, and I didn't know that. I wish I would have known that a long time ago, because you're supposed to take that out if you're ever going to let this sit for a while, which this thing sat for, you know, three years, and then 2 years before that, but I didn't know that. But after you get that out and the gas drains, you can spray carburetor cleaner up in there, and it'll kind of re-clean the jets. So what I think happened is there may have been some crud or whatever in the gas tank or in the gas lines, and after I cleaned the carburetor and put it back in, some crud or whatever from the gas lines or the gas tank or whatever made its way back in there and re-clogged it. So I just cleaned, like I said, sprayed that carb cleaner up in that hole and just like really, you know, sprayed the heck out of it up in there, and then it cranked, lo and behold. So I'll crank it up right now so you can hear it. It's loud, louder than I remember. Honestly, it's kind of too loud, but I'll crank it up right now just so you can hear it. I had it running, actually went around the block up to the next cul-de-sac there last night. So let's see if this thing cranks up right away today. Let's see. Okay, so there's a good indication of how it sounds. It's pretty loud. Honestly, kind of too loud, but it seems sacrilegious to change the pipes to make it quieter, but maybe I will do that, or I'll put baffles or something in. I don't think there's baffles in there, so maybe I can put some baffles in there. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it seems kind of hesitant, and like maybe there is a fuel issue still happening, and that may be because the gas that's in it is bad, or maybe not bad, but starting to go bad. So maybe it'll sort itself out once I get some fresh gas in, because it's just not cranking properly. But as far as that, I think the very next step is I need to wash it, because God, it looks horrible. Sorry, the wind. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the sound here, but it's super windy. Anyways, next step is to wash it and then realistically get it back. The tire pressure I think is really low, because when I was driving it last night, it was hard to like turn, so I need to check the pressure on these tires and see what that's all about. Next video, like I said, I'll just be continuing on next process, cleaning this baby up. For now, I'm just gonna put some air in. I may take it around the block again, just kind of feel it out and see what else needs to be done. There's a ton of work. I mean, I gotta get this thing cleaned up. There's rust everywhere. Hopefully I can clean these parts up, or get new ones, or paint them, or I don't really know, but there's just rust everywhere. This thing needs to be cleaned up big time. It's been super neglected, as I've said in some of the other videos. But you know, next step here, just keep it going. Thanks for watching.